2022, and I think the opinion of the movie's changed quite a bit too since it came out. It's become this dark horse, sort of like a classic.
You know, I've kind of felt that. It's you know, when we made that movie, obviously the comic book stuff was, you know, it was definitely had started, you know, but it was just like a small part of the movie theater experience. And that movie came out, and pretty soon it's like DC and especially Marvel just basically took over the cinema complexes. And what's interesting about Watchmen is, and this is true for, if you're a comic book movie fan, it's almost like required watching. And if you're a comic book fan and you hate movies, it's a required comic book to read. Like it's I would imagine if you're like a total comic book nerd and you're at a party and people discover you haven't read it, it's you feel like a pariah. I'll be back next
I'm not gonna lie, Watchmen now is almost like you see that on people's bookshelves, like the Bible. Almost like you see Alan Moore, you see those yellow words, you see Watchmen, and you're like, oh, cool, you're a nice person. Yeah. If you see that on somebody's shelf, you're like, okay, cool, I'll hang out with you. So you're a part of that legacy too, and that's just amazing. And you know,
it's pretty cool. You know what the movie kind of reminds me of, although it did much better, but it's kind of a lot like Blade Runner. I don't know if you know, Blade Runner came out and bombed. Like Watchmen didn't bomb; they just wanted it to do a lot better. I mean, it actually did reasonably, and I know over the years it's done well, because those things, they keep going. The studios never tell you that stuff, but you know they've been renting that thing out forever. But at any rate, Blade Runner came out, and I think it had like a horrible weekend. I think it was an outright bomb, and then it just became a cult favorite that everybody watched and loved. They came out with different versions of it. I remember seeing it, I guess the weekend it bombed, and it's like, that thing has been one of my favorite movies, and I still love it to this day.
I love the Watchmen director's cut, and then also too, I see a lot of that original Watchmen movie in The Boys too on Amazon. I feel there's a lot of that vibe as well.
Yeah,
for sure.
Comedian.
There you go.
So I think Zack Snyder did an excellent job of plugging things straight from the comic into the movie. So my question is there anything that you would have liked to have seen from the comic into the movie that didn't get put in there, besides the squid, and more specifically for Rorschach?
You know, there was, when we were shooting the film, I kind of was lobbying for a scene with Zack to try to throw into the movie. And I think he was kind of right to not put it in. Even if we had a shot at it, he probably might have cut it. But I kind of forget the details on this. This has been forever. So somebody's going to need to help me with this. I kind of felt as we were making the movie, and again, I was sure I was wrong and Zack was right, because his understanding of that, you know, stuff is beyond my skill set. But I kind of felt that Rorschach was so dark, consistently, I think consistently. It's been a while since I've seen this, so I could be wrong on this, but I think he was consistently true to never compromise. And then in the comic book, oh man, help me remember this. There was this one scene in the comic book where you saw a softer side of Rorschach. And I think what it was,
Probably like his upbringing too with his mother.
Was it the landlord coming in for the rent and like the little kid was there?
Say that again?
There's a part in the comic book, I can't believe I remember this, it's been a little bit. I believe Night Owl is just breaking Rorschach out of
have a
jail.
copy of Watchmen with them right now? I mean, I would assume
Well, I can tell you what it was, but you might need the details. I think he's leaving his apartment.
Yeah.
And the neighbors, I think something like the mom or something is doing something to the kids or something.
Yeah.
But I think he like helps the mom because it's going to help the kids or something. He does something nice there, and I can't remember exactly what it was. And it was like that one little scene in the comic book that showed you this slightly a little bit of heart, and almost a little bit of heart and love. It kind of showed you a little piece of his soul. Like
he was an abused child growing up too, so
Yeah.
I think he was trying to sort of pay.
Is that the scene you were saying?
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
So I was kind of thinking, like, you know, I was kind of saying, hey man, can we put this in there? We never shot it.
Zack Snyder's like, do you know how much money we're spending on this already? Yeah.
But you know, it didn't need to be in there. I think there was, I think somehow, some weird kind of way, you definitely see there was definitely some heart and love in there for Daniel.
Yeah.
You know, and you can really see that relationship. You can really see the human side. It somehow came through. And I will say this: what Zach did with the writers, with regard to getting rid of the island, but the way he replaced that island with the new mechanisms between Manhattan and Ozymandias, I think it was brilliant. Because I think it's way more film friendly. And to tell you the truth, I do remember when I was reading the book, I'd kind of hang up on that part. You know, like it seemed to be okay, this is like, I feel like another left turn. It's like when we got off the island, it's like, until it started to make sense. Like he kind of did something that just, that relationship, and I forget the mechanisms, but what their new little relationship kind of really replaced the squid. It was kind of neat too, where something in there was called the squid, you know. So that was really cool. And I also remember in the book, I was really glad to see that they got rid of this in the movie. Wasn't there? You got this massive, the squid at the ending. That might have actually looked cool in a movie. But they did that a little bit in the TV show, didn't they?
Yeah.
So that was cool the way they handled that.
Did you like the show?
Oh man, I loved the TV show. That was just, it couldn't have been better. That was just awesome. What was I going to say? And it was also kind of nice that they tightened up the ending a little bit. I remember with all of that havoc going on when I was reading the book, I think there's one point where Dan and Silk Spectre kind of off, you know, doing the thing. And I'm like, what are they doing, man? What's coming to an end? But, you know, so all that. I just thought, I thought the few changes that he made, I thought were huge and wonderful. Because I don't think, aside from that, I don't think there's any comic book movie that's ever followed the comic book as close as that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There, in terms of like, you know, for actors and people getting involved with it, it used to be like, well, you know, you work on movies, you're up here. If you work on TV, you're down here. It's a cool place to be. But now it's like they're like this. You know, it's
Because you're having A-list actors now doing HBO shows and doing Amazon and doing all these different ones, and so you have so many different avenues of work.
yeah. And the creative, I think a lot of it's, again, the theater experience, the fact that it's all technically just, you know, incredible, whether you're, you know, in the theater or at home, and then the writing and the players.
Because the writers and directors now have like 8 to 10 hours to play with.
Yeah.
Instead of just an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, which is kind of fascinating. If you look at like Watchmen on HBO, that's one of the things that's so cool about that is they were able to, you know, you got a 10-part movie in a sense, and it's just, you can really get in there, spend time with it. They did great writing, and there's so many good shows like that. Like we just recently finished up Gaslight on Stars. Great show, man. I think that was on Stars.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, but there's so many. It's like my memory sucks. My memory didn't. I could just read. I watch so much stuff I forget and stuff.
You brought up all the comic book movies and stuff. Have you ever been approached to do the MCU stuff, or are you?
I'm waiting. Let's all
Anybody
pound the
that works
internet.
for Marvel.
Yeah, Marvel.
Yeah.
Where are you?
Who would you want to?
My number is.
If you could pick anybody, this is my question now. If you could pick somebody from like Marvel world, you've done DC, who would you be in Marvel?
Well, I think it's obvious. Captain America.
There we go. Yes. A variant version of Captain America.
Yeah.
There we go.
You know, it's a way alternate universe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next question.